The woman sits in her car outside the office building. 43 years old. 15 years at the same company. Today she submitted her resignation. Her hands tremble slightly on the steering wheel, not from fear alone, but from something else. Excitement. Possibility. The exhilarating terror of stepping into the unknown. This is what starting over feels like. Starting over is one of the most courageous acts a human being can undertake. It means looking at your current life, acknowledging that something fundamental is not working, and choosing to rebuild. It means releasing the comfort of the familiar, even when that familiar has become a prison. It means trusting yourself enough to believe you can create something better, even when you cannot yet see what that something is. Society often treats starting over as failure. You were supposed to figure it all out by 30. Choose the right career, the right partner, the right path, and stay on it. Deviation suggests poor judgment, instability, or weakness. But this narrative is fundamentally flawed. It ignores the reality that humans grow, evolve, and change throughout their entire lives. What felt right at 25 might feel suffocating at 40. What you wanted before you truly knew yourself might be completely misaligned with who you have become. Starting over is not failure. It is the ultimate act of self-respect. It is saying I matter enough to live authentically. My happiness, my fulfillment, my alignment with my values, these things are worth the discomfort of change. It is choosing growth over stagnation, possibility over security, truth over pretense. The reasons people start over are as varied as people themselves. Some experience a crisis that forces change. Illness, divorce, job loss, the death of someone close. These catalysts shatter the illusion of stability and create an opening for transformation. Others feel a growing sense of misalignment, a persistent whisper that says this is not your life, you are meant for something else. Still others reach a point where the pain of staying the same finally exceeds the fear of change. Whatever brings you to the threshold of starting over, know this: you are not alone. Millions of people before you have stood exactly where you stand now, hearts pounding, futures uncertain, wondering if they have the strength to rebuild. And they did it. They walked through the fire of uncertainty and emerged on the other side with lives that finally felt like their own. This book is for you if you are contemplating a major life change but fear you are too old, too settled, too far down the wrong path. It is for you if you have already started over and are struggling with the challenges of rebuilding. It is for you if some part of you knows, despite all the logical reasons to stay put, that you need to make a change. Starting over at any age requires specific skills and mindsets. You need the ability to grieve what you are releasing while simultaneously moving toward what you are creating. You need to manage fear without letting it paralyze you. You need to rebuild your identity when the markers you have used to define yourself no longer apply. You need to navigate the opinions and concerns of people who do not understand your choice. Throughout this book, you will learn how to do all of this. You will discover how to assess whether starting over is right for you or whether your current life simply needs adjustments. You will learn to create a vision for your new life that is compelling enough to sustain you through uncertainty. You will develop strategies for managing fear, building courage, and taking action even when you do not feel ready. You will also learn from the stories of others who have successfully reinvented themselves. The lawyer who became a chef at 45. The corporate executive who left to teach in underserved communities at 50. The accountant who became an artist at 62. These are not exceptional people with unusual advantages. They are ordinary people who made an extraordinary choice to honor their truth regardless of external expectations or internal fears. Starting over is not easy. If it were, everyone would do it. It requires you to sit with discomfort, to tolerate ambiguity, to live in the space between what was and what will be. It demands resources: financial, emotional, social. It often means disappointing people, explaining yourself repeatedly, and dealing with your own doubts in the middle of the night when courage feels far away. But here is what else starting over offers: authenticity, alignment, the profound satisfaction of living in integrity with who you actually are rather than who you thought you should be. The opportunity to build a life based on your current values and desires rather than outdated blueprints. The chance to model courage for others who are also trapped in lives that do not fit. Perhaps most importantly, starting over offers proof that you are not a victim of your circumstances or your past choices. You are the author of your life. At any moment, you can pick up the pen and begin writing a new chapter. The previous chapters matter. They shaped you, taught you, brought you to this moment, but they do not dictate what comes next. Age is often the biggest perceived barrier to starting over. I am too old to change careers. I am too old to go back to school. I am too old to start a business, leave a marriage, move to a new city. But consider this. You are going to age regardless of whether you start over. 5 years from now, you will be 5 years older whether you made a change or stayed stuck. The question is not whether you have time. The question is how you want to spend the time you have. Some of the most inspiring reinventions happen in the second half of life. You have accumulated wisdom, skills, self-knowledge, and often some financial resources. You know yourself better than you did at 25. You understand what truly matters and what is just noise. You have learned from mistakes and successes. You are, in many ways, better equipped to build a meaningful life now than you were when you were younger. Financial concerns are legitimate. Starting over often involves financial risk or temporary instability. But financial security purchased at the cost of your well-being and authenticity is not actually security. It is a prison with a retirement plan. There are ways to manage financial risk while still making meaningful change. You can transition gradually. You can build new skills while maintaining your current position. You can create safety nets and backup plans. The opinions of others will surface as you consider starting over. Family members will express concern. Friends might not understand. Colleagues might judge. Your inner circle might feel threatened by your change because it highlights their own unlived lives. This is painful but ultimately irrelevant. They are not living your life. They do not feel your daily misalignment or your deep knowing that something needs to change. Their opinions, while often offered with love, cannot be the deciding factor. Fear will also show up, persistently and loudly. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of financial instability, fear of regret, fear of discovering you cannot do it. These fears are normal and, to some degree, useful. They ensure you have thought through your decision. But they should inform your planning, not dictate your choices. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. As we move through this book, you will develop a framework for starting over that honors both your dreams and your realities. You will learn to make wise decisions rather than impulsive ones. You will build the psychological, practical, and social resources you need to navigate transition successfully. You will discover how to maintain hope during difficult moments and how to celebrate progress along the way. Starting over is not about escaping your life or running away from problems. It is about running toward something. A truer expression of yourself, work that matters to you, relationships that nourish you, a daily existence that feels aligned rather than obligatory. It is about claiming agency over your own life and refusing to accept less than what you know is possible. The path ahead will not be linear. There will be setbacks, doubts, moments of questioning whether you made the right choice. This is part of the process. Growth is messy. Transformation is uncomfortable. But on the other side of this discomfort is a life that belongs to you, built on your terms, reflecting your authentic values and desires. So if you are standing at the threshold, wondering if you have what it takes to start over, know this: you do. The fact that you are reading these words means some part of you believes change is possible. Trust that part. Feed it. Let it grow until it becomes louder than the voices of fear and doubt. Your past does not define your future unless you let it. Your age is not a barrier unless you decide it is. Your circumstances are not permanent unless you choose to keep them that way. You have more power than you know and more time than you think. The question is not whether you can start over. The question is whether you will give yourself permission to try. In the chapters ahead, we will explore exactly how to do that. You will learn the art of starting over, how to envision your new life, how to release what no longer serves you, how to build courage and take action, how to navigate the practical challenges, and how to sustain yourself through the journey. This is your invitation to begin again. Let us start. Chapter 1. Recognizing when it is time to start over. Not every moment of dissatisfaction signals the need to start over. Life includes frustration, boredom, and difficulty. These are not necessarily signs you are on the wrong path. Sometimes you are simply in a challenging season of an otherwise good life. The art of starting over begins with discernment, distinguishing between temporary difficulties and fundamental misalignment. Fundamental misalignment has distinct characteristics. First, it is persistent. This is not a bad week or a difficult month. It is a persistent sense that something essential is wrong, a feeling that has been present for months or years, perhaps growing gradually stronger. You might have tried to ignore it, rationalize it away, or fix it through minor adjustments, but it remains. Second, fundamental misalignment affects multiple areas simultaneously. It is not just that you dislike your job. It is that your work feels meaningless, your daily routine drains you, your relationships feel strained because you are not showing up as your full self, and your physical health is suffering from chronic stress. The misalignment radiates outward, touching everything. Third, fundamental misalignment creates a split between your outer life and your inner experience. On the surface, everything might look fine. Successful career, stable relationship, nice home. But inside, you feel empty, restless, or trapped. You find yourself going through motions, performing a role rather than living authentically. You might catch yourself thinking, is this really my life? This disconnect between external appearance and internal reality is a hallmark of deep misalignment. Listen to your body. Your body often knows before your mind consciously acknowledges that something is wrong. Chronic tension, frequent illness, persistent fatigue despite adequate rest, difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite or compulsive eating. These physical symptoms can indicate that your current life is fundamentally at odds with your well-being. Your body is trying to tell you something important. Pay attention to your emotions. Do you feel chronically anxious, depressed, or numb? Do you dread Sunday evenings because they signal the start of another week? Do you feel a sense of relief when plans get canceled because it means you do not have to show up and perform? Do you fantasize regularly about different lives, different careers, different locations? These emotional patterns suggest something deeper than temporary stress. Notice your energy. Where do you feel most alive? What activities or conversations energize you? What drains you? If your primary life commitments, your job, your relationship, your daily activities, consistently drain your energy while things outside those commitments light you up, that is significant information. You might love cooking but hate your career. You might feel energized volunteering but depleted in your primary relationship. These energy differentials point toward misalignment. Consider your values. Values are the principles and qualities that matter most to you. Creativity, freedom, connection, growth, service, stability, adventure, integrity. Your values may have evolved since you made major life decisions. The stability you craved at 25 might feel like stagnation at 40. The prestige you pursued early in your career might now seem hollow compared to meaning and impact. When your daily life does not express your current values, misalignment is inevitable. Reflect on your identity. How do you introduce yourself? Do you lead with your job title, your role as someone's partner or parent, your accomplishments? Do these identity markers feel true and complete, or do they feel like a costume you wear? If significant parts of who you are remain unexpressed in your current life, if you feel like you are hiding or diminishing yourself to fit, that is a sign of misalignment. Examine your relationships. Do the people closest to you know and accept your authentic self? Can you share your real thoughts, feelings, dreams, and struggles? Or do you perform a version of yourself that you think they expect or accept? Authentic relationships nourish you. Performative relationships, even when they look successful on the surface, exhaust you and create a painful sense of isolation. Think about growth. Are you learning and evolving, or have you plateaued? Humans have a fundamental need for growth and development. When your life becomes too comfortable, too predictable, too confining, you stagnate. This creates restlessness and dissatisfaction. If you feel like you have outgrown your current life, if you can perform your role on autopilot, if there is no challenge or learning left, you might need a change. Consider the timing. Is there an urgency to this feeling? Some people contemplate change for years, even decades, waiting for the perfect moment. But perfect moments rarely arrive. Life continues to present responsibilities and complications. At some point, waiting becomes avoidance. If you have been thinking about making a change for more than a year, it is probably time to move from contemplation to action. It is crucial to distinguish between wanting to escape difficulties and genuinely needing to change direction. Running away from problems rarely works because you take yourself with you. If your dissatisfaction comes primarily from external difficulties that exist in any context, difficult colleagues, financial pressure, the challenges of parenting, then starting over will not solve those issues. You will encounter new versions of the same problems in a new setting. But if your dissatisfaction comes from a fundamental mismatch between who you are and what your life demands of you, starting over might be exactly what you need. If you are an introvert in a career that demands constant networking and performance, if you are creative in a rigid environment, if you value freedom in a controlled situation, if you crave meaning in hollow work, these are structural problems that might require structural change. Ask yourself these diagnostic questions. If money were not a concern, would I still be doing what I am doing? If I were not worried about others' opinions, what would I change? What would I do if I knew I could not fail? What did I want before I learned to want what was expected of me? What would the person I most admire advise me to do? What would I tell my best friend if they were in my situation? Your answers to these questions reveal what you know but might be afraid to acknowledge. They bypass the rational justifications and access your deeper wisdom. Pay attention to what emerges. Notice if there are consistent themes or desires that appear across different questions. It is also worth examining what you are afraid of losing. Sometimes we stay in misaligned situations not because they serve us but because leaving means loss. Loss of status, loss of financial security, loss of others' approval, loss of a familiar identity. These losses are real and they matter. But they need to be weighed against what you lose by staying. Authenticity, vitality, time, possibility, yourself. Consider conducting a life audit. Set aside time to honestly assess each major area of your life: career, relationships, health, personal growth, creativity, contribution, spirituality, recreation. Rate each area on a scale of 1 to 10 based on satisfaction and alignment. Where are the lowest scores? What patterns emerge? This bird's-eye view can reveal whether you need wholesale change or targeted adjustments. Sometimes a crisis creates clarity. Illness, loss, divorce, or job termination can shatter your existing life structure and force you to rebuild. While painful, these moments also create opportunity. The upheaval has already happened. You might as well use it to create something better rather than desperately trying to reconstruct what was. Other times, clarity comes gradually. Small moments accumulate. The 100th time you feel disconnected in a conversation. The 1,000th morning you wake up with a sense of dread. The realization that you cannot remember the last time you felt truly excited about anything. These quiet accumulations eventually reach a tipping point where you know, without question, that something must change. Trust that knowing. Your intuition, your body, your persistent dissatisfaction, these are not problems to solve. They are messengers bringing vital information. The message is simple. This life, as currently configured, is not your life. You are capable of more alignment, more authenticity, more vitality. And while starting over is difficult, it is not as difficult as spending your remaining years in a life that does not fit. The decision to start over is deeply personal. No one can make it for you. You alone live inside your experience. You alone know how it feels to wake up each day in a life that does not reflect who you truly are. Trust yourself enough to act on that knowledge. The recognition that it is time to start over is already an act of courage. It is the first step in reclaiming your life. In the next chapter, we will explore how to grieve what you are leaving behind while simultaneously creating a vision for what comes next. Starting over requires you to hold both loss and possibility, both ending and beginning. Learning to navigate this paradox with grace is essential for successful transformation. Chapter 2. Grieving the past while building the future. The entrepreneur closes the door to her office for the last time. 20 years she built this business. 20 years of early mornings and late nights, of problems solved and victories celebrated, of team members who became family. She is walking away by choice, pursuing something she believes will be more meaningful. But choice does not eliminate grief. As she hands in the keys, tears stream down her face. This is what it means to start over. Choosing forward while mourning what is left behind. Grief is not reserved for death. It is the natural emotional response to loss of any kind. When you start over, you lose pieces of your identity, familiar routines, relationships that cannot transfer to your new life, the comfort of knowing how things work, dreams you had for your previous path. Even when you choose to leave, even when leaving is absolutely the right decision, grief still comes. Many people try to bypass grief. They focus exclusively on the exciting possibilities ahead, the relief of escaping what was not working, the promise of the new beginning. But unprocessed grief does not disappear. It goes underground and emerges as anxiety, depression, second-guessing, or a persistent sense that something is wrong even when your new life is objectively better. Grief also does not follow a linear timeline. You do not grieve for 2 months and then move on, done. Grief comes in waves. You might feel fine, energized, excited about your new direction, and then something small triggers a wave of sadness. A song. A familiar smell. Driving past a place associated with your old life. These grief waves are normal, and they do not mean you made the wrong choice. They mean you are human and you are processing loss. Allow yourself to feel sad about what you are leaving, even as you move toward something better. These feelings coexist. You can simultaneously grieve your old career while being excited about your new one. You can mourn the end of a relationship while feeling relieved to be free. You can miss aspects of your previous life while knowing you could not stay. Human emotional experience is complex enough to hold apparently contradictory feelings at once. Create space for grief rituals. Rituals help you acknowledge endings and transitions consciously. You might write a letter to your former self or former life, acknowledging what you gained and learned, expressing gratitude for the good parts, and formally releasing it. You might create a symbolic gesture, burning old documents, removing your wedding ring, deleting your professional profile, boxing up items from your previous life. These actions provide closure. Share your grief with trusted others. Find people who can hold space for your mixed emotions without trying to fix them or talk you out of them. You need permission to be sad even as you are hopeful, to miss the past even as you pursue the future. People who have also navigated major transitions are often best equipped to understand this complexity. At the same time you are grieving, you are building. This is the paradox of starting over. You have one foot in the past and one in the future, standing in the uncomfortable middle space of transition. Learning to inhabit this space without rushing through it is crucial. Building the future begins with vision. What do you actually want? This question sounds simple but is often difficult to answer. You might know clearly what you do not want: the job you are leaving, the relationship that ended, the city you outgrew. But knowing what you do not want does not automatically reveal what you do want. Start by exploring without judgment. Give yourself permission to want things that seem impractical, impossible, or inconsistent with your current identity. You might want to live by the ocean, even though you have always lived in cities. You might want to work with your hands, even though you have been a knowledge worker. You might want solitude, even though you have always been social. Let yourself want what you want before determining whether it is feasible. Distinguish between means and ends. Sometimes what you think you want is actually a means to something deeper. You might think you want to make more money, but what you actually want is security or freedom or the ability to be generous. You might think you want a different job, but what you actually want is creative expression or intellectual challenge or meaningful contribution. Understanding the true underlying desire helps you identify multiple possible paths to satisfy it. Create a vision that engages all your senses. Do not just think about your new life. Imagine it. What does a day in your new life look like from morning to evening? Where do you wake up? What do you see when you open your eyes? What does your morning routine include? What work do you do? Who do you interact with? How do you feel in your body? What challenges are you facing? The more specific and sensory your vision, the more real and compelling it becomes. Your vision should both excite and slightly scare you. If it feels completely comfortable and risk-free, you are probably not dreaming big enough. But if it feels purely terrifying with no excitement, you might be forcing yourself toward something that is not actually aligned with your authentic desires. The sweet spot is where possibility and challenge meet, where you think I am not sure I can do this, but I really want to try. Be willing to revise your vision. Starting over is not about executing a perfect plan. It is about moving in a direction and adjusting as you gain information and experience. Your initial vision might be wrong in some details. You thought you wanted to live in the mountains, but discover you prefer the coast. You thought you wanted to run your own business, but discover you prefer collaborative environments. This does not mean you failed. It means you are learning and refining. Break your vision into phases. You probably cannot transform your entire life overnight. What is the first phase? This might be gaining specific skills, saving money, testing an idea, relocating, ending a relationship, or beginning therapy. Identifying the first concrete phase makes the overwhelming task of starting over feel more manageable. Set some milestones. How will you know you are making progress? Milestones provide both direction and encouragement. They might be time-based. In 6 months I will have saved $10,000. Or accomplishment-based. I will have completed the first draft of my manuscript. Or experiential. I will have spent 1 month living in the place I am considering moving to. Milestones let you celebrate progress and adjust your approach based on what is or is not working. Expect that building your new life will take longer than you want and probably longer than you initially estimate. This is frustrating but normal. Systems, skills, relationships, reputations all take time to develop. You cannot rush organic growth. But every day you take action aligned with your vision, you are building. Progress is happening even when it feels slow. You will need to manage the tension between grieving the past and building the future. Too much focus on the past and you get stuck in nostalgia or regret, unable to move forward. Too much focus on the future and you bypass necessary grief, creating psychological complications later. The balance is dynamic. Some days you need to let yourself fully feel the loss. Other days you need to focus entirely on action and creation. One way to honor both is to set aside specific time for grief and specific time for building. Perhaps Sunday afternoons are for reflection, feeling, processing. The rest of the week is for action, planning, moving forward. This compartmentalization allows you to engage fully with both without having them constantly interfere with each other. Another approach is to find meaning in the connection between past and future. What did your past teach you that will serve your future? What skills did you develop in your previous career that transfer to your new direction? What did you learn about yourself in the relationship that ended that will help you build healthier relationships? What strengths did you develop navigating previous challenges that will help you navigate this transition? Viewing your past as foundation rather than waste transforms grief. You are not abandoning meaningless years. You are building on everything you learned and experienced. Your past makes your future possible. Without those 20 years building that business, you would not have the skills to start this new venture. Without that relationship, you would not know what you truly need. The past is not wasted. It is preparation. Be patient with yourself. You are attempting something difficult and brave. There will be hard days. There will be moments you question whether you made the right choice. There will be times you long for the familiarity of what you left, even though you know you could not stay. These moments do not indicate failure. They are part of the process. Remember that starting over is not about reaching a destination where everything is perfect and settled. It is about living in greater alignment with your truth. It is about choosing growth over stagnation, authenticity over performance, possibility over resignation. The path includes both grief and hope, both loss and gain, both endings and beginnings. Learning to hold all of it is the art of starting over. In the next chapter, we will explore how to build the courage you need to take action despite fear and uncertainty. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move forward with fear as your companion. You will learn specific strategies for managing fear, building confidence, and maintaining momentum even when the path ahead is unclear. Chapter 3. Building courage in the face of fear. Fear is not your enemy when starting over. Fear is information. It tells you that you are attempting something significant, something that matters enough to trigger your brain's threat detection system. The problem is not that you feel fear. The problem is believing that fear means you should stop. Understanding how fear works helps you respond to it effectively. Your brain evolved in an environment where most threats were physical and immediate. Predators, hostile tribe members, dangerous terrain. The amygdala, your threat detection center, learned to react instantly to potential danger. This served your ancestors well. Hesitation could mean death. But your amygdala cannot distinguish between actual physical threats and psychological or social threats. Starting a new career, ending a relationship, moving to an unfamiliar place, these activate the same alarm system as encountering a predator. Your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your stomach clenches. Your mind generates catastrophic scenarios. This is your brain trying to protect you the only way it knows how. The first step in building courage is recognizing that fear does not equal danger. Fear is your brain's prediction of danger, and your brain is often wrong. It overestimates threats and underestimates your capacity to handle challenges. It assumes the worst because in the ancestral environment, assuming the worst kept you alive. But in the modern context of starting over, this overcautious prediction system holds you back. When fear arises, pause and assess. What specifically am I afraid of? Get granular. I am afraid of starting over is too vague to work with. I am afraid I will run out of money and become homeless. I am afraid people will judge me as irresponsible. I am afraid I will fail and confirm my deepest suspicion that I am not capable. These specific fears can be examined and addressed. For each specific fear, ask, how likely is this outcome? What is the actual evidence? Am I catastrophizing or realistically assessing risk? Often when you examine your fears closely, you discover they are based on worst-case thinking rather than probable outcomes. Yes, you could run out of money, but you also have skills, resourcefulness, and the ability to adjust your plan if needed. Homelessness is extremely unlikely. Also ask, if this fear came true, could I handle it? This question is crucial. Most feared outcomes, while unpleasant, are survivable. If people judge you, it will hurt, but you will survive their judgment. If you fail at your first attempt, you will be disappointed, but you can try again or try something different. Recognizing your resilience reduces fear's power. Consider the cost of not acting. Fear focuses your attention on the risks of action. But there are also significant costs to inaction. What happens if you do not start over? What does your life look like in 5 years if you stay on your current path? Often the risks of staying are greater than the risks of changing, but fear obscures this reality. Reframe fear as excitement. This sounds like psychological sleight of hand, but it is based on the fact that fear and excitement produce similar physiological responses. Increased heart rate, heightened alertness, energized body. The difference is primarily in your interpretation. I am terrified and I am excited produce nearly identical physical states but completely different psychological experiences. When you notice fear arising, try labeling it as excitement instead. I am excited about this possibility. My body is preparing me for this challenge. This small shift can dramatically change your experience. Start small. You do not build courage by taking one massive leap. You build it through repeated small acts of bravery. Each time you do something that scares you and survive, you gather evidence that you are capable. Each small success builds your confidence for the next slightly bigger challenge. If you are starting a new career, your first step might be informational interviews, not quitting your job. If you are considering relocating, your first step might be visiting for a week, not selling your house. If you are leaving a relationship, your first step might be couples therapy or a temporary separation, not immediate divorce. These smaller steps let you gather information and build courage without betting everything at once. Create courage rituals. Athletes use pre-game rituals to access their optimal performance state. You can do the same. This might be a specific breathing pattern, a power pose, a mantra you repeat, a song you listen to, or a visualization. Practice your courage ritual during low-stakes situations so it becomes associated with feelings of confidence and capability. Then use it when facing bigger fears. Find your courage models. Who do you know who has done something similar to what you are attempting? How did they navigate it? What can you learn from their experience? Courage is contagious. Surrounding yourself with people who have faced their fears and changed their lives makes your own change feel more possible. Share your fears with trusted others. Fear thrives in isolation and secrecy. When you voice your fears to someone who responds with empathy and perspective, those fears lose some of their power. You realize you are not uniquely flawed for feeling afraid. You gain new perspectives on your fears. You feel less alone. But choose your confidants carefully. Not everyone can hold space for your fear without trying to fix it or amplifying it. You need people who can say, "I understand why you are afraid, and I believe in your ability to handle this." Avoid people who catastrophize with you or dismiss your fears as foolish. Practice tolerance for uncertainty. Much of the fear around starting over comes from not knowing how things will turn out. You want guarantees. You want to know before you start that you will succeed, that you made the right choice, that everything will work out. But life offers no such guarantees. Learning to act despite uncertainty is essential. You can increase your tolerance for uncertainty through small practices. Order something unfamiliar at a restaurant. Take a different route home. Strike up a conversation with a stranger. These small acts of embracing the unknown build your capacity to handle bigger uncertainties. Separate identity from outcome. Much of your fear probably relates to what it will mean about you if you fail. If this new career does not work out, it confirms I am not capable. If this relationship ends, it proves I am unlovable. These identity-level fears are particularly painful and powerful. But your worth is not determined by any single outcome. You are inherently valuable simply because you exist. Success or failure in any specific endeavor provides information about that approach in that context at that time. It does not define your fundamental worth or capability. This perspective allows you to experiment and take risks. If you can separate your sense of self from results, failure becomes merely feedback. It becomes data about what to try differently rather than evidence about your worth. Build a financial cushion if possible. Many fears about starting over relate to money. Having some financial resources reduces these fears and gives you more freedom to take risks. Even a few months of expenses saved creates breathing room. This might mean you need to delay your transition to build savings first. That is okay. Use the time wisely to prepare in other ways. If building savings is not possible, get creative about financial risk management. Can you transition gradually, maintaining some income while building your new path? Can you reduce expenses temporarily? Can you line up a safety net like moving in with family if needed? Financial risk is real and deserves serious consideration, but it often is not as insurmountable as fear makes it seem. Expect that fear will persist. It does not disappear once you start taking action. In fact, as you get closer to major changes, fear often intensifies. This is normal. Your brain is essentially saying, "Wait, you are really doing this?" Let me remind you of all the reasons this is terrifying. Recognize this fear surge as a sign you are approaching significant change, not as evidence you should stop. Use fear as a compass. What you fear most often points toward what matters most. If changing careers did not matter to you, you would not be afraid of failing at it. If this relationship were not significant, leaving would not scare you. Your fear reveals your values and desires. Let it guide you toward what is most important rather than away from challenge. Remember that courage is not recklessness. Courage is thoughtful risk-taking. It is assessing the risks honestly, preparing as well as you can, and then acting despite remaining uncertainty. It is different from impulsive decisions made to escape discomfort. True courage includes both the willingness to act and the wisdom to act well. As you build courage, you will notice it becomes easier. Not easy, but easier. The first time you speak up in a meeting is terrifying. The 10th time is still uncomfortable but manageable. The first time you set a boundary is agonizing. The 20th time feels more natural. Courage is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. You are capable of more courage than you know. Evidence of this is the fact that you are still reading, still considering starting over despite your fears. Part of you knows you can do this. Trust that part. Feed it. Let it grow stronger than your fear. In the next chapter, we will explore the practical steps of transition, how to plan, prepare, and execute your new beginning while managing the logistics and challenges of major life change. Understand Chapter 4. The practical path forward vision without execution remains a dream. You have recognized the need to start over. You have grieved what you are releasing and imagined what you are building. You have developed courage to face your fears. Now comes the practical work of actually making the change. This is where many people falter, not for lack of desire or courage, but for lack of practical strategy. The first practical question is timing. When do you actually make the change? There is no perfect time. There will always be complications, responsibilities, reasons to wait. But there are better and worse times based on your specific circumstances. Consider your resources. Do you have financial cushion? Do you have social support? Do you have relevant skills, or do you need to acquire them first? Do you have physical and mental health? These resources influence your timeline. If you are depleted in multiple areas, you might need to build some resources before making a major transition. Consider external factors. Are there specific windows of opportunity? Application deadlines? Lease endings? School years? Seasonal considerations? Sometimes external constraints actually create clarity about timing. Other times they simply need to be factored into your planning. Consider internal readiness. Have you done sufficient inner work? Do you understand why you are making this change? Have you processed relevant grief and fear? Are you moving toward something or primarily running from something? Internal readiness matters as much as external circumstances. For many people, A gradual transition makes more sense than an abrupt one. You do not have to quit your job before starting your new career. You can build your new path while maintaining your current one. This hybrid approach reduces financial risk and allows you to test your new direction before fully committing. The bridge strategy involves creating a temporary intermediate step between your current life and your desired future. If you are leaving corporate work to start a business, you might first move to part-time employment while building your business. If you are relocating to a new city, you might first do several extended visits or a temporary trial move. The bridge strategy lets you move toward your goal incrementally rather than in one dramatic leap. Another practical approach is the small bet strategy. Instead of betting everything on one path, you place multiple small bets. You try several different things on a small scale to see what actually works and what you actually enjoy. This experimentation phase helps you refine your vision based on real experience rather than imagination. For example, if you think you want to be a coach, you might coach a few people informally before investing in certification. If you are considering a creative career, you might create in your spare time before making it your primary income source. Small bets provide valuable information with limited downside. Create a realistic timeline with specific milestones. Where do you want to be in 3 months? 6 months? 1 year? 3 years? These milestones should be specific enough to know whether you have achieved them but flexible enough to adjust based on new information. Share your timeline with trusted supporters who can help you stay accountable. Identify the skills and knowledge you need. What gaps exist between your current capabilities and what your new path requires? Be honest about this. Optimism is valuable, but not at the expense of realism. Make a plan to acquire necessary skills through courses, books, mentors, or experience. Build your new identity gradually. You do not wake up one day as a completely different person. Identity shifts happen through repeated actions and choices. Each time you take an action aligned with your new direction, you reinforce that identity. Each time you introduce yourself in a new way, you make it more real. But expect some identity confusion during transition. You are no longer fully your old self, but not yet fully your new self. This in-between state is uncomfortable. You might feel like an imposter. You might struggle with how to describe yourself. This is normal and temporary. Your new identity will solidify through consistent action. Manage your environment. Your physical and social environment profoundly influences your behavior. If you are trying to start a creative career but spend all your time with people who dismiss creative work as impractical, you are fighting your environment. If you are trying to build a healthier lifestyle but your home is filled with junk food and your social life revolves around drinking, your environment works against you. Audit your environment. What supports your new direction? What undermines it? Then make strategic changes. This might mean rearranging your physical space, joining new groups, spending more time with certain people and less with others, or changing your consumption of media and information. Expect resistance from others. People in your life are accustomed to you being a certain way. Your change disrupts their expectations and sometimes threatens them. If you become more authentic and confident, it might highlight their own compromises. If you take risks, it might scare them because they project their own fears onto you. Some resistance comes from genuine care and concern. People who love you worry about your well-being. Try to hear the care beneath the concern. Thank them for caring about you. But do not let their fears override your knowing. They are not living your life. Other resistance comes from people who benefit from you staying the same. Leaving a relationship means your partner loses you. Changing careers might mean your employer loses a valuable employee. Relocating means your local friends and family see you less. These people have real stakes in your staying put. Acknowledge their loss while maintaining your commitment to your own growth. Set and maintain boundaries. You do not owe everyone an explanation or justification for your choices. You are allowed to share your plans with some people and not others. You are allowed to limit discussions about your transition with people who are unsupportive. You are allowed to change the subject or end conversations that feel undermining. Find your people. Seek out others who have made similar changes or who are also in transition. Join groups, online communities, or programs relevant to your new direction. These connections provide practical support, emotional encouragement, and a sense of belonging during a time when you might feel isolated. Document your journey. Keep a journal, write a blog, record voice memos, or create visual records of your transition. This serves multiple purposes. It helps you process your experience. It creates a record you can look back on to see how far you have come. It might become a resource for others who follow a similar path. Celebrate small wins. Starting over is hard. Every small step forward deserves acknowledgement. You had a difficult conversation. You completed a course. You submitted an application. You survived a hard day without giving up. These victories matter. Celebrating them builds momentum and reminds you that progress is happening. Prepare for setbacks. They are inevitable. You will have days where everything seems to go wrong. You will make mistakes. You will face rejection. You will doubt yourself. None of this means you are failing. It means you are attempting something difficult. The question is not whether setbacks occur, but how you respond to them. When setbacks happen, return to your why. Why are you doing this? What matters to you? What is worth the difficulty? Reconnecting with your purpose and values helps you persevere through challenges. Also, practice self-compassion. You are human. You will not execute perfectly. You will have moments of weakness, poor decisions, and failures. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend going through similar challenges. Build routines that support your transition. Routines reduce decision fatigue and create structure during a time of upheaval. Morning routines can set a positive tone for your day. Work routines can help you make consistent progress. Evening routines can help you process and rest. Experiment to find what works for you. Manage your energy, not just your time. You have limited energy in any given day. Protect it and allocate it strategically. What activities energize you? What drains you? Can you schedule demanding tasks during your peak energy hours? Can you reduce or eliminate activities that deplete you unnecessarily? Take care of your physical health. Sleep, nutrition, and movement are not luxuries. They are the foundation of your capacity to navigate change. When you are exhausted, poorly nourished, and sedentary, everything is harder. Prioritize basic self-care even when you are busy. Similarly, tend to your mental health. Therapy can be invaluable during major transitions. A skilled therapist helps you process emotions, challenge unhelpful patterns, and develop coping strategies. If therapy is not accessible, consider support groups, self-help resources, or structured programs. Build financial habits that support your transition. Create a budget if you do not have one. Track your spending. Identify areas where you can reduce expenses if needed. Build savings systematically. If you are starting a business or changing careers, understand the financial realities and plan accordingly. At the same time, do not let financial fear paralyze you. Yes, starting over might involve financial sacrifice or risk, but you can manage that risk through planning, gradual transition, skill building, and resourcefulness. Many people have successfully started over with very limited financial resources. It requires more creativity and potentially more time, but it is possible. Stay connected to meaning. In the midst of practical challenges and logistics, you can lose sight of why you are doing this. Regularly reconnect with your vision. Visualize your desired future. Remember what matters to you. This meaning sustains you when the practical path feels overwhelming. The practical path forward is not linear. You will not simply execute your plan step by step until you arrive at your desired destination. You will learn things that require you to adjust your plan. You will discover new opportunities you had not anticipated. You will encounter obstacles that force creativity. This is all part of the journey. Flexibility within commitment is the key. You are committed to your overall direction, to creating a more aligned and authentic life. But you are flexible about the specific path. You are willing to adjust, pivot, and experiment based on what you learn. This combination of commitment and flexibility allows you to persevere without becoming rigid. In the final chapter, we will explore how to sustain yourself for the long haul, how to maintain hope and momentum, how to integrate your new life, and how to recognize and celebrate your success when you have truly started over. Chapter 5. Sustaining yourself through the journey. 6 months into her transition, the teacher-turned-entrepreneur sits at her laptop at 2 in the morning. Her new business is growing but slowly. Money is tight. She is working harder than she ever did in her teaching job and making far less. Tonight she wonders if she made a terrible mistake. This is the valley, the difficult middle period of starting over where the initial excitement has faded but success is not yet visible. This is where many people quit. Learning to sustain yourself through this period is essential. Starting over is not a sprint. It is a marathon. Actually, it is more like a series of marathons with rest stops in between. You need strategies for going the distance, for sustaining your energy, hope, and commitment over months and years, not just days and weeks. First, normalize the difficulty. You are attempting something genuinely hard. Of course it is challenging. Of course there are moments you want to quit. Of course you feel exhausted and discouraged sometimes. This does not mean something is wrong. This means you are in the process. Many people start over with unrealistic expectations about how quickly things will change or how smoothly the transition will go. They imagine quitting their job and immediately thriving in their new career. They picture leaving a relationship and quickly finding a better one. They expect to feel consistently excited and confident. The reality is messier. Progress is uneven. Some days you feel on top of the world. Other days you wonder what you were thinking. Success comes in fits and starts. You make progress, plateau, sometimes even slide backward before moving forward again. This is normal. It is not evidence of failure. Create sustainable rhythms rather than relying on motivation. Motivation is fickle. Some days you feel motivated. Other days you do not. If you only act when motivated, your progress will be inconsistent. Instead, create routines and systems that carry you forward regardless of how you feel. This might mean working on your new path for 2 hours every morning before work, regardless of whether you feel like it. It might mean dedicating Sunday afternoons to planning and preparation. It might mean attending a relevant networking event every month whether you are in the mood or not. These rhythms create consistency and momentum. Build in rest and recovery. You cannot sustain high intensity indefinitely. You need periods of rest where you are not actively pushing forward, where you can process what you have experienced, where you can simply be rather than constantly doing. This might be a day off each week, a longer break every few months, or simply daily practices that help you decompress. Rest is not weakness or lack of commitment. It is strategic. Athletes know that muscles grow during rest, not during the workout. The same principle applies to your starting over journey. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is rest. Manage comparison carefully. In the age of social media, you are constantly exposed to others' highlight reels. You see people who seem to have successfully started over, who appear confident and thriving. You do not see their struggles, their setbacks, their moments of doubt. Comparison in this context is toxic. If you find yourself comparing, remind yourself that you are seeing an incomplete picture. Also remind yourself that someone else's success does not diminish your own. Their successful career change does not make yours less valuable. There is not a limited supply of successful new beginnings. Better yet, limit your exposure to comparison triggers. This might mean taking breaks from social media, unfollowing accounts that make you feel inadequate, or simply being more selective about what you consume. Find meaning in the struggle itself. You are not just enduring difficulty until you reach some future point where life will be easy and perfect. The struggle is where you are growing, learning, discovering your strength. Can you find meaning and even satisfaction in the process rather than only in the outcome? This does not mean pretending difficulty is not difficult. It means recognizing that you are building character, resilience, and capability through this challenge. You are becoming someone who knows they can handle hard things. That has value independent of whether you achieve your specific goal. Redefine success beyond outcomes. Yes, you have specific goals. But success is not only about reaching those goals. Success is also about living with integrity, about honoring your truth, about having the courage to choose growth over comfort. You are already succeeding in important ways simply by attempting this transition. This broader definition of success protects you from despair if things do not unfold exactly as planned. Your new career might look different than you imagined, but you are still successfully living authentically. Your new relationship might not be perfect, but you are successfully choosing partners who respect you. The specific outcomes matter less than the fact that you are living according to your values. Practice gratitude alongside striving. Yes, you want things to be different and better. You are working towards specific changes. But there is also good in your current moment, even in the middle of transition. Finding and acknowledging that good does not mean settling or giving up on your goals. It means maintaining perspective and emotional balance. Each day, identify a few things you are grateful for. Some might relate to your transition. I am grateful I had the courage to start. I am grateful for the support of this friend. Others might be completely unrelated. I am grateful for this sunset, this meal, this moment of peace. Gratitude grounds you in what is working rather than only what is hard. Cultivate patience. Perhaps the most challenging requirement of starting over. You want the transformation to happen now. You want to skip the difficult middle and arrive at the successful new life. But meaningful change takes time. Skills develop slowly. Relationships form gradually. Reputations build through consistent action over months and years. Impatience creates suffering. It makes you focus on how far you still have to go rather than how far you have come. It tempts you to take shortcuts that undermine long-term success. It drains your energy through constant frustration with the pace of progress. Instead, focus on what you can control today. You cannot control how quickly your business grows, but you can control whether you reach out to one potential client today. You cannot control when you will meet a compatible partner, but you can control whether you engage in activities where you might meet people. You cannot control how long the job search takes, but you can control the quality of the application you submit today. This day-by-day focus makes the journey manageable. You are not trying to complete the entire transformation today. You are simply doing what today requires. String enough of these days together and you will look back amazed at how far you have traveled. Maintain connection with your support network. Isolation is the enemy of perseverance. When you are alone with your struggles and doubts, they grow disproportionately large. Sharing them with trusted others provides perspective, encouragement, and practical help. But do not just turn to your network when you are struggling. Stay connected during the good times too. Share your wins. Let people celebrate with you. This builds relationship depth and ensures your connections are not only about you extracting support but about genuine mutual relationship. Learn from setbacks without being defined by them. You will fail at things. You will make poor decisions. You will have ideas that do not work. None of this makes you a failure. It makes you someone who is trying, experimenting, learning. When something goes wrong, examine it. What happened? Why? What can I learn? What will I do differently? This reflection turns failures into feedback. Then let it go. Do not carry the shame or disappointment indefinitely. Extract the lesson and move forward. Stay curious. Curiosity is an antidote to both fear and discouragement. When you are curious, You approach challenges as interesting puzzles rather than threats. You wonder what will happen rather than catastrophizing. You experiment rather than rigidly controlling. Cultivate curiosity about your process. I wonder why I responded that way. I wonder what would happen if I tried this approach. I wonder what I will learn from this experience. This stance creates psychological flexibility and makes the journey more interesting. Adjust your expectations based on reality. If you launched a business expecting to be profitable in 6 months, but the reality is it is taking 18 months, you can either berate yourself for being slow or adjust your expectations to match reality. The latter preserves your mental health and allows you to keep going. This is not lowering standards or giving up. It is being realistic about timelines and challenges. Some things simply take longer than you hoped. That is okay. Adjust your plan and keep moving. Recognize and celebrate milestones. You applied for the program. You had the difficult conversation. You completed the first month in your new city. You made your first sale. You went on a date. You finished the course. These milestones deserve recognition. They are evidence that you are making progress even when the ultimate goal still feels far away. Create celebration rituals for milestones. This might be a special meal, buying yourself something meaningful, sharing the win with your support network, or taking a day to simply savor the accomplishment. These celebrations provide positive reinforcement and mark your progress. Revisit and refine your vision periodically. As you gain real experience with your new direction, your vision might shift. This is good. You are updating based on information rather than just operating from imagination. Every few months, check in with your vision. Does it still feel right? Does it need adjustment? Are you moving in a direction that still excites you? At the same time, distinguish between useful refinement and self-doubt-driven constant changing of direction. If you switch goals every few months because each new goal becomes difficult, that is not refinement. That is avoidance. True refinement involves adjusting while maintaining overall direction. Develop mental toughness. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending difficulty does not affect you. It means building the capacity to keep going even when things are hard. It means not quitting just because you are uncomfortable. It means tolerating ambiguity and uncertainty without needing immediate resolution. You build mental toughness the same way you build physical strength, through progressive challenge. Each time you choose to persist when you want to quit, you build this capacity. Each time you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, you develop tolerance. This is strength you will carry with you for the rest of your life. Remember your why. On the hardest days, come back to this. Why are you doing this? What matters enough to make the difficulty worthwhile? Reconnect with your deepest values and desires. This is not just about escaping your old life. This is about creating a life that reflects who you truly are. That is worth fighting for. Expect that you will have doubts. You will wonder if you made the right choice. You will be tempted to quit and return to the familiar. This does not mean you are on the wrong path. It means you are in the hard middle where commitment is tested. Push through unless you have genuine evidence that you need to change direction. Find inspiration in others' stories. Read books and articles about people who started over. Watch interviews. Join communities of people on similar journeys. These stories remind you that what you are experiencing is normal, that others have walked this path successfully, that you can too. Trust the process. You cannot always see how things will work out. You cannot always understand why certain things happen or how they will eventually contribute to your success. But if you keep showing up, keep learning, keep adjusting, keep moving forward, things tend to work out. Not always in the way you expected, sometimes in ways that are even better. Starting over is one of the most challenging and rewarding things you can do. It requires everything: courage, persistence, faith, flexibility, work, patience. But it offers something precious: authenticity. A life that belongs to you. A life built on your terms according to your values. The journey is long, but you do not walk it alone. millions of people before you have rebuilt their lives. Millions more are doing it right now alongside you. And millions will follow after you, inspired by your courage to start over. You are exactly where you need to be. Keep going. Your new life is being built one day, one choice, one brave action at a time. And when you look back from the vantage point of your rebuilt life, you will be amazed at what you have created and who you have become in the process. Conclusion. Your new beginning, the entrepreneur from our opening, has been running her new business for 2 years now. She still works long hours. Money is still sometimes tight. But when she wakes up in the morning, she feels excitement instead of dread. The work is hers. The choices are hers. The life is hers. She did it. She started over. You can too. Everything you have read in this book points to one truth. Starting over is possible at any age, in any circumstance, regardless of your past. It is not easy. It is not quick. It is not guaranteed to unfold exactly as you imagine. But it is possible. You have learned to recognize when starting over is necessary, to distinguish between fundamental misalignment and temporary difficulty. You have explored how to grieve what you are releasing while building what comes next, holding both endings and beginnings with equal honor. You have developed strategies for building courage in the face of fear, for acting despite uncertainty. You have mapped the practical path forward, understanding that starting over requires both vision and execution, both dreaming and doing. And you have learned how to sustain yourself through the long journey, how to maintain hope and momentum when the path is difficult. Now the question is not whether you can start over. The question is whether you will. Will you give yourself permission to rebuild? Will you trust yourself enough to try? Will you honor your truth even when it demands difficult change? Your past does not chain you to a particular future unless you allow it to. Every day is an opportunity to choose differently, to move in a new direction, to become more fully yourself. Yes, there are constraints. Yes, there are complications. Yes, there are risks. But there are always constraints, complications, and risks. The question is whether you will let them stop you or whether you will work with them creatively. You are not too old. People reinvent themselves at 60, 70, 80. You are not too settled. Stability purchased at the cost of your soul is not real stability. You are not too far down the wrong path. No matter how long you have walked in one direction, you can turn around. You are not too afraid. Everyone is afraid. Courage is action despite fear. The life you want is on the other side of the discomfort of transition. It is not a fantasy or an impossible dream. It is a real possibility waiting for you to claim it. Others with fewer advantages, less support, more obstacles have successfully started over. You can too. But it requires commitment. Starting over is not something you try casually. It is not a whim or a mood. It is a decision to fundamentally change your life, a commitment you make to yourself. It is saying, I matter enough to do this difficult thing. My happiness, my authenticity, my alignment with my values, these are worth the work. That commitment will be tested. There will be moments you want to give up, to return to the familiar, to accept that this is just how your life is. In those moments, remember why you started. Remember what you are building. Remember that discomfort is temporary, but regret is permanent. Surround yourself with support. Find people who believe in you and your capacity to create change. Distance yourself from those who diminish your dreams or amplify your fears. Your social environment profoundly influences your beliefs about what is possible. Choose it wisely. Take the first step, whatever that step is for you. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need a perfect plan. You do not need to feel completely ready. You just need to take one action aligned with your desired direction. Then another. Then another. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but it only begins if you actually take that step. Your new life will not look exactly like you imagined. It will be messier, take longer, and involve more challenges than you anticipated. It will also include unexpected joys, surprising opportunities, and growth you cannot currently foresee. It will be real rather than ideal. And real is what you need. As you rebuild your life, be gentle with yourself. You are learning. You are growing. You are attempting something difficult. There will be mistakes and setbacks. There will be days you do not show up as your best self. This is part of being human. What matters is not perfection but persistence. Celebrate your courage. The fact that you are considering starting over, that you have read this far, that some part of you believes change is possible, this is already courageous. Honor that. Let it grow. Feed it with action and support and commitment until it becomes strong enough to carry you all the way through. Your new life is waiting. Not in some distant future, but right here, right now, in the choice you make today. Will you take one step toward it? Will you honor your truth? Will you give yourself the gift of starting over? You deserve a life that fits. You deserve to wake up feeling aligned rather than conflicted. You deserve work that engages you, relationships that nourish you, a daily existence that reflects your values. You deserve to be yourself without apology or pretense. Starting over is how you claim that life. It is not a guarantee of perpetual happiness. Life includes difficulty regardless of your circumstances. But it is a path to authenticity, to living in integrity with who you truly are. And that is worth everything. The art of starting over is not about reaching some final perfect destination. It is about the ongoing practice of aligning your external life with your internal truth. It is about the courage to change when change is needed. It is about trusting yourself enough to rebuild. You have everything you need to start. You have the courage, even if you do not feel it yet. You have the strength, even if circumstances have obscured it. You have the capacity, even if past failures make you doubt it. Everything you need to begin again is already within you. The only question that remains is, will you do it? Will you give yourself permission to start over? Will you take the first step toward your new life? The answer is up to you. But know this, whatever you decide, you are worthy. You matter. Your life has value. And if you choose to start over, you do not walk that path alone. You join a community of courageous people who refused to settle, who honored their truth, who rebuilt their lives at any age. Your new beginning starts now. Not when circumstances are perfect. Not when you feel completely ready. Not when everyone approves. No. With all your imperfections, uncertainties, and fears. Now, with all your courage, hope, and determination. This is your life. Your one precious life. How will you spend it? Will you stay in the safety of the familiar even when it suffocates you? Or will you step into the uncertainty of starting over, trusting that on the other side of that uncertainty is a life that truly belongs to you? The choice has always been yours. It remains yours now. Choose courageously. Choose authentically. Choose yourself. Welcome to your new beginning.